I think we're live now. You can never tell. Yep, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. So tonight we're on a new software.
I don't think we're live.
Yep, we're live.
You sure? Because I'm looking.
Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Didn't you hear that?
Oh.
That was live in YouTube. We are live.
Well, shut my mouth. Go ahead.
Shut my mouth and slap your grandma. Anyway, so Mark, you can chuck all that. So, hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I want to take time to thank Jake and the gang over at Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co, for being the bandwidth sponsor. And thanks for Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out every week and finding us a permanent new solution for Google being less than friendly to everybody and getting rid of Hangouts. So, and thanks to Jared for putting some of his Monday night on the side and hanging out with me for a few to test us out. So, wanted to say thank you to him. So, it's we've got some new software now. We actually are using a separate program and then just streaming it through YouTube. We're not actually dependent on YouTube anymore, so that's kind of nice. It's still going to show on YouTube, and everybody can still watch live on YouTube the way they have. It's just that we're not stuck with some third-party software that could be janky. So, and at some point in time in the near future, right now we're still using the public servers. As you can see, there's a little watermark in the upper left-hand corner or upper right-hand corner, whatever it is, of the software we're using. But eventually we're going to be using on our own private server for FRN. So looking forward to that. But so what's everybody been doing? It's only us three tonight. Jim will be joining us later. He's got that whole first of the month gun club meeting thing going on. But Jason's son that moved to Idaho stopped into town, and so expectedly so, Jason's spending some time with his son, and I don't blame him one bit. So I'd spend time with my kids other than looking at our ugly mugs all night anyway. So I played around a little bit, did a little bit of 9mm, did a little bit of 12 gauge loading over the weekend. Kind of a little organizing and cleaning my bench, so I actually have a little bit of space, not much, but overall it was a pretty busy weekend. So I'm just happy I got a little bit of, I got 100 rounds of 9 and about 100 12 gauge done. So eventually I'll get that 1,000 12 gauge done, 100 at a time. So, but yeah, the 366 makes it so much nicer to do, and I am forever grateful, Paul. Thank you. Cheers. So, Phil, what you been up to?
Regretfully, nothing.
That happens.
Well, I mean, it was Jason's answer for 7 or 8 months straight, so I figure I might as well keep the tradition going.
Well, he had to pick up from Jim, so.
And Jim does hold the record for a reloading person not reloading.
Pretty much.
But since they're not here, I'm going to bag on both of them.
Exactly. Well done, sir. Well done. Travis, how about you?
Well, if I can remember everything that I did, I know
CRS, huh?
I suffer from working a lot of hours. I've been working 14-hour days, and I forget what day it is sometimes.
That sucks. I've been there, done that.
So I know it's been a little bit of a process, but I've been working on all my 22-250 brass. So I got it all annealed last week. And so this week I've been going through I loaded up 100 rounds. And then I did anneal some Norma and the rest of my Hornady 223 brass and loaded up 200 rounds of my 3-gun match ammo out of the Hornady brass and some 75 grain projectiles. I did load up some shotgun shells also for the upcoming 3-gun match on Saturday. And then I have been working on some stuff for the show. So it may or may not involve Starline brass and a giveaway. And it may or may not also involve me getting a 350 Legend barrel and some brass.
Ooh, nice.
Who knows? We'll see what happens.
350 Legend for an AR.
Yes.
Nice. That would be a fun toy. All right. So, we kind of really need a cartridge for tonight, don't we? Because we should do the cartridge corner. It's episode 264. So there's a crap ton of 264s out there. What should we do? That is the great question. I have a cartridge I want to do, but I just got to double check to make sure we haven't done it before. So I'm checking Jim's awesome spreadsheet. Which is lacking in a couple of cartridges. So I'll have to do due diligence and fill that out. So can anybody guess what the cartridge is going to be tonight? Anybody?
Did we already do the 260?
Yeah, we did 260 on episode 260.
Okay. Well.
It's episode 264. What do you think?
Just tell us, Mike.
264
We're not that
Win
smart.
Mag.
See, I know absolutely zero about 264 Win Mag.
Obviously.
I know absolutely zero about anything in the 264 range.
I tell you.
I like my military cartridges.
Yes, you do.
Well, if I was paying attention to the chat, I could have lied and acted like I knew what I was talking about because of our awesome listeners over there yelling the answer out.
Except Chris. Chris is yelling out a cartridge for Phil.
That's because he's a jerk.
He likes picking on you for that.
That's all right. One day I will have a big boy rifle. Although the other day I was showing you that 50 cal that I have my heart set on.
Yeah. I don't know.
Dude, it's a $1,200 50 cal.
I know one of our friends, I'm not going to call him out just yet, but I know one of our friends who just put a Armorlight 50 cal on order.
But it's not a $1,200 50 cal.
Why would you want a $1,200 50 cal?
Because
aren't those the ones that were putting people's eye out with the bolts?
No,
it's,
this one they've pulled all those. Thank you.
No, this is one of Mark Serbu's designs.
So it's a single shot.
It's a breech loading single shot. Basically, it's think like a crack barrel, except it's got a screw-in breech plug on the back of it with firing pin, with basically a striker assembly mounted inside that breech plug, and it's hammer fired.
And that's going to cost how much?
I think it was $1,200 before you start throwing options on it.
And how much is this 338 Lapua you want?
See, here's the problem though: is when I don't know.
Yeah, be responsible and save up and get the 338. Don't be messing around with a single shot 50.
But it's a 50. Like what part
how do you mute other people? Can you do that?
How?
Well,
like what?
Have you bothered to research how much it costs per round for 50, even if you hand load? Okay.
338 ain't a whole lot cheaper.
It is a bit cheaper. So, and
Dan Travis from the chat.
Oh, did he figure out how to do that?
Yes, he did.
Dang kid.
Thought we could be like treat Phil like Jeremy on We Like Shooting. Just mute him.
Anyway, 264 Win Mag.
Yes, I'm just looking at some of the other suggestions. So, oh, that's a good one, Chris. Oh, that's good. That is good. Even you have to admit that's good, Phil. Okay, back to the cartridge corner. After a slight bird sighting. All right, so 264 Win Mag. It's actually been around a really long time as far as cartridges go. When you think about the pantheon of firearms cartridges, especially smokeless powder, it's about 120 years, 130 years, practically. I mean, yes, they had smokeless cartridges as far back as the early 70s, 1870s.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really see a large scale use of smokeless powder, especially not until usually after the turn of the century. I mean, there was a couple, and you got a couple of military cartridges that did, but for the most part, your average Joe running around didn't really use smokeless powder. They were still using black powders for the most part, at least until 1890. So the fact that this has been around since 1958. Yeah, 1958 or 1959. Sorry. Officially it was created in 58, officially introduced in 59. It's another of the belted Magnum cartridges based off the 375 Holland & Holland. So, what kind of brought Winchester to be creating this is the 6.5 was all the rage in Europe, especially 6.5 55. And so, as you get a lot through history, as we've seen, is necessarily didn't want to adopt the European cartridge here. And there's various reasons for that. Some of it was just flat out, American firearms manufacturers didn't really have a strong comradeship with the European firearms manufacturers. They kind of did their own thing, and they kind of really wanted to do their own thing. And they wanted to make their own. So 264 Win Mag was the first U.S. Magnum to be based on the 6.5. Released in 58 or late 58, early 59. It was designed to compete against the popular Weatherby rifles and cartridges at nearly half the price. Introduced in the Model 70 Westerner rifle with a 26-inch barrel, 264 gained a solid following. Unfortunately, its popularity. God, and I haven't even been drinking yet. What the hell? I should drink, so at least I have an excuse. Okay. Unfortunately, its popularity ended almost overnight when Remington released their 7-rem mag. 7mm at this time provided more versatility because of greater bullet weight selections, especially heavier bullets suited for larger animals. Yeah, 7-rem mag's a elk slaughterer. So, since that time, 264 has become somewhat of an oddity, highly regarded by 6.5 fans, but otherwise ignored in the mainstream hunting circles. Winchester prefers two variations of the rifle. They had the 26-inch barreled Westerner and 24-inch barreled Featherweight. Featherweight was created due to customer demand, but mostly rejected by those who wanted it because of its loss in velocity, high recoil, and muzzle blast. Well, duh, you take 2 inches off the barrel. So, final nail in the coffin began as hunters started complaining about excessive throat erosion due to high chamber temperatures induced by the overbore cartridge. Winchester discontinued production of rifles chambered in 264 several decades ago. However, many rifles in good order are still circulating, along with custom rifles appearing from time to time. So, performance. 264 Win Mag is a powerful, fast-killing, highly effective medium game cartridge, and it does so out to long ranges. Countless elk have been taken with the 264. And game of this size should be considered the common sense upper limit when working the 264 strengths. So elk, nothing like moose and stuff. But much has changed since the introduction of the 264, especially in the hunting world. And cartridges are really only coming into its own today because of long-range competition, long-range hunting. The 6.5, as we all know, is now heavily supported by a plethora of long-range, high ballistic coefficient, highly frangible at low velocity projectiles, which optimize performance and versatility of this cartridge considerably. Furthermore, 140 grain being the heaviest bullet in use, the recoil of the 264 is capped within moderate levels. Killing performance with controlled expanding projectiles generally falls off at the ranges between 325 and 400. Using 140 or 130 grain bullets. Beyond that range, the hunter must use either extremely careful shot placement or utilize a soft match bullet, specifically either the 130 grain Berger VLD, 140 grain AMAX, or the 140 grain Berger VLD. So one of the things that's kind of become around is wildcatters have taken the 7mm Winchester short mag and necking it down to use the 265. So it produces similar velocities to the 264. Main difference is it's a short action versus a long action, and it's a beltless cartridge design that the belted 264. So Winchester and Remington still make 140 grain soft point loads at a mild 30 feet per second. The Remington doesn't seem to hit that speed as well as and consistently as the Winchesters do. So, the problem that they run into is the power point. That 140 grain power point bullet has a really horrible BC, so it's kind of handicapping it. This is definitely one that kind of more exceeds at hand loading. So. 264 brass is still readily available. In the early years, the powder of choice was the 4831 because of its slower burning rate. But now H1000 is even slower, and they're using that in 26-inch barrels. So 26-inch barrel with a 4831, you're getting about 3,300 feet per second with 120, 32 with 130, and 31 with the standard 140. And if you decide you want to load up the big boy of 160 grain, that's about 2,900. They say by using the H1000, you gain sometimes up to 70 feet per second. So, the problem is 120 is a little light. And, light bullets, you have an increased powder charge, so therefore it's going to increase your throat erosion. So, it's kind of one of those cartridges that if you have one or come across one, it's pretty cool. It's fun to play with. But yeah, nobody's really making factory rifles for it anymore. I'm actually kind of honestly surprised that they're still making factory ammunition, given the fact that, there hasn't been a rifle in production in over 30 years for it. So this is another one of those cartridges that timing really was horrible for. And you'll see that with a lot of cartridges that we cover in the cartridge corner that maybe have been released as a mainstream, but because of when they came out, there was something that was shinier and better that came out shortly after or shortly before and just kind of killed it. So, you compare a 264 Win Mag to a 7 Rem Mag, there is no comparison. You can shoot similar bullet weights a lot faster and a lot longer out of a 7 mag than you can out of a 264. So, that's kind of the thing there. So, they're talking about size with belted cartridges. I've never really done anything different with the belted cartridges. I set the shoulder back, and then the headspace really nicely off the shoulder once you set the shoulder back a little bit. So just kind of like what Jeremy used to talk about with this 308, setting the shoulder back instead of doing a full size every time. But they're talking about there is a Collet die that you can get for loading belted magnums. Says Larry Willis for the Collet die for belted cartridges. And basically what it is it's going to neck size only. It's not going to really melt at the belt because the problem, at least from what I've heard, I've never run into a problem myself, but from what I've heard is the problem is if you try and full length size, you get down to the belt and it won't actually size. And so it can cause some head spacing issues. But all I'm ever loading is once fired for specific. All I've ever loaded is once fired specifically for that rifle in that rifle. So full sizing wasn't necessary for what I was doing. But yeah, it's definitely a cool cartridge. It's one of those that personally, if I came across, I probably would look into. Just cause. But definitely kind of like the 244 that we talked about a while ago. It just got killed by something else. So how long ago did we cover the 244? I don't remember. Maybe we didn't actually cover it. I think we just maybe talked about it on a question. So anyway, so that information is courtesy of Terminal Ballistics Research. Put it in the show notes, put a link in there. So we appreciate that they spent all this time coming up with all this information for us to be able to help and share. So yeah, it's definitely one of those kind of neat old cartridges that not many people, some people have heard of, some people haven't. So, but on that note, so we've kind of had this giveaway going for a while. We're going to actually do the drawing Friday. That would be Friday, April 9th. I'm hoping to be able to do the drawings on Friday. We actually ended the drawing on the 31st of July. So if anybody has entered after that, it won't count. But so we've got 3 drawings we're going to do. Hopefully Friday. I haven't talked to Travis and see what his schedule is like. We may have to wait a little bit. So yeah, and 244 or 6mm Remington. So is another one of those. That was the other cartridge I was talking about. So came out at the wrong time. It came out at the same time 243 Win did, and 243 Win outperformed it. So that's kind of how that goes. Anyway, so I've got a couple of lovely pieces of machinery here that were painstakingly and carefully designed, tested, and built. And what I have is from FW Arms, I have their universal decapper. And then I have their swage foot. So what I'm going to do is I have my trusty, handy, old, lovely Lee single stage over here, and it's still set up from before when I was swaging. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the swaging out. I'm going to put the decapper in. We're going to decap some 5.56 military brass. And then we're going to do some swaging. So you can kind of see how that works. So first, a question. I think my F-class rifle's barrel has just gave up the ghost. When do you consider your barrels toast? Paul asked what cartridge. So we're going to see about that. I'm guessing 308 if it's F-class. See, the problem is... Oh, it is 6 Creed. Okay. 6mm Creed. Phil, you nailed it. That's basically the thing. When accuracy is no longer acceptable for you, and cleaning does not change the problem appreciably.
Yeah, and that comes with the caveat that some rifles like Ruger M77s are kind of notorious for this, which I found out after I got mine. Apparently, the barrels are not like way out of spec, but the lands and grooves are a tiny bit on the large side. And those rifles tend to pattern like a shotgun when they're freshly clean, when you first get all the copper and everything out of the barrel.
Oh,
But within 5 or 6 rounds, just a little bit of fouling, they start to tighten right back up.
Yeah.
So I guess my point of view is that's not a hard rule because it depends on your barrel. But if accuracy goes to hell, clean the hell out of it, and then foul it. And if accuracy doesn't come back to what you're expecting, I don't care how many rounds are through the barrel's not doing what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Because accuracy is an individual requirement.
Yep.
Accuracy with a grenade launcher is not the same as accuracy with an F-class rifle.
Nope. And that's not going to stay there.
So that's probably like the least direct answer, but it's the one I can think of that applies across the board the best.
Oh, whoops, it's not plugged in. Confucius says, if you want to use something that requires power, it must be plugged into outlet to work. That's how you know your reloading shelves are a little crammed up, is when you bump it and you hear something thump and you don't know what it was. So, first off,
Uh-oh.
oh,
Be on your best behavior now.
there goes the neighborhood.
You bet.
What do you mean there goes the neighborhood? Now we got to be on our best behavior.
Nah. He's like Grandpa asleep in the recliner. He doesn't pay attention.
Want to bet?
Nope, because I'm broke.
I know the feeling.
Greetings.
Hey, L. Just got back from the gun club meeting.
How was
Let
that?
me turn that other light on. Hold on. I got to turn off that other light. Hold on.
He said, hold on. Uh-oh.
It's a typical gun club meeting. That's all. No biggie. But they're important, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So who all we got? Travis? Phil? Mike?
Yep.
Just the usual troublemakers.
No Jason.
Where's Trumbo? No Jason.
His son
Oh.
came into town.
Okay.
While he's setting that up, what did you do in reloading, Jim?
Well,
Did you do
I got-
anything?
Yeah, if you check, matter of fact, Travis, thank you for reminding me. I've just remembered I forgot to post what I did this evening. I annealed 100 cases of 223, the stuff I took to the range. My Savage Model 12, the 100 cases I fired, I turned around. They're probably like twice fired reloads. It's all GI brass, of course. But I took them out there and shot them up, brought them home, and I pulled the ammo box out. It's an MTM plastic ammo box. And I pulled it out and put them all loaded them all into the hopper of the annealer. The annealees, I should say. And I bet you 20 minutes, had them all annealed. I annealed them down a little lower than you were, Travis. I got about a 1/4 inch discoloration at the shoulder, about a 1/4 inch low. You know, that's where the discoloration starts to change the blue back to on its way back up to the yellow brass. So what I'm saying is I got about so much, just so much discoloration, but it didn't go down to the body.
Yeah, the one thing that I am noticing, which is kind of a pain, I'm really loving these FW Arm decapping dies.
Yeah.
And one of the main things is this guide bushing. So I have noticed I grabbed some other stuff and was using to decap. And if you don't, with it being annealed and being softer, if you don't have that brass lined up just perfectly, it's very easy to damage the lip on your neck. And just about
Oh
destroys
yeah,
you.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're talking about down inside this down this sleeve, the sleeve that you see.
Well, I'm saying
Well,
this eliminates that. So if I should have
yes.
just thrown this in, and this would have solved my problem, but
Mhm.
I was using another setup,
Oh.
and if you don't have that, your brass perfectly lined up, and you bump the opening of your mouth, puts a since it's softer, it's very easy to damage that.
Yeah, I forgot to tell everyone, I got my FW Arms supplies too. I got 2 decapping rods. I don't know if this is large or small. Shouldn't be. It shouldn't make any difference.
No, he was just extra nice to you, Jim.
Okay. And then I got an auto center swage foot. It must work on the same principle as the decapping assembly.
Similar.
It's got a nice heavy duty. Yeah, I got that same thing too.
Yeah, this is.
He sent mine in a separate packaging for whatever reason.
Yeah,
the idea is it'll help center in the flash hole in the web. So
while we're talking about it, let me just tear mine apart. So the nice thing, I actually prefer the old style. This is considered the old style for his swage foot. It's just a perfectly flat swage foot. He had some guys running auto presses, and he listened to their suggestions. That's why you got this updated one, Jim. This is an updated one.
Yes, sir.
Where it's just beveled. So guys running an auto press were saying that this was kind of what they were wanting. So any of our listeners, yeah, I do.
Travis,
but any of our, go ahead, Jim.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the reason why that change has been made is because of the burr on the inside of the flash hole in the cavity in the inside of the case. If you don't take time to deburr the flash hole, you're going to take in that square flat swage foot is going to take and shove the burr right back down into the flash hole.
Well, that's probably true, but the main reason he updated it to this was, let's say, for example, you got some 223 brass. Without grabbing my calipers, I don't know what the diameter of this pin is, but normally on an auto press, you got your let's just say for me, decap, and then it's swage foot. So if the neck is any kind of deformed or something, you run the possibility of catching your neck on this squared off foot. So having it tapered like this eliminated or lessened the chance of it catching on the lip of a kind of a deformed before it got to the resizing die.
I will say this much: whatever the diameter of that pin is, the flat-footed one, it's really close to the inside neck diameter of 223. Really close. Because when I ran, because I mean that's the primary rifle brass that I'm working with these days, and when I ran it through a couple cases through it, it's real close. Matter of fact, I actually had one that the very tip of the neck had a dent in it, and I had to reach in there with a little screwdriver and pull the dent out before I could get the swage foot in there. So when he sent this new swage foot out, I totally understood what he was doing because I'd encountered that problem before. And just bullnosing the end of it means that unless the neck is really mangled, it'll just open it back up without stopping.
Hey, Phil, a little trick I learned years ago when it comes to those mangled necks, and this is for all the podcast listeners too, and the YouTube viewers. Most of the guys on YouTube know what they're doing, so they probably know this trick. Take a pair of needle nose pliers, put it inside the case, and very gently just rotate it until you get it back around.
I used a screwdriver because it was on the bench and I was impatient.
I can say that I've ran thousands of cases of 223 with this squared off foot. I haven't had a single issue with mine, but the really awesome thing about FW Arms, and you guys are all just attested to that. So I was one of the first guys to jump on board when I seen his setup, and I forget what it was. Okay, here's an example right here. So I can't remember which one. So for those listening, I'll try to explain it, but his die is a kind of a universal die body with the 7/8 thread pitch with the lock nut. And then up top, he's got a really nice big brass cavity, and that's what the spring and everything travels, and the pin and everything travels up in. Well, the first iteration of his pins here was just a threaded pin, and the cap is a little bit different. He switched over to this is the second gen right here, and the cap's a little bit different, and it has a finer tune adjustment for an Allen wrench for your decapping die. The original decapping die did not have that. It was just a standard thread pitch, and there was no fine tune adjustment. Well, he's such a good guy that if he does any updates, he's been sending out those updates to guys. He wants them to have the best product that he has. So anybody that's gotten one of his older versions, they're getting updated parts in the mail from him at no cost. And I tried to talk to him and say, some of these things, man, you shouldn't have to send those out, but he wants the guys to have the best product they possibly can get from him. And it costs money for him to make extra parts and mail them out to guys, but he's doing it because he wants them to have a good setup. And that's why all of us and it's not just us on the podcast, it's anybody that has purchased a Swage foot, they've all gotten, just like we have, they've all gotten a updated tapered Swage foot just because he wants them to have this product, not have to purchase it, but update it and get to them. And that's, to me, that says a lot to a guy's his business sense, that he doesn't care that it's costing him money, because these aren't free. It's costing him money to have these manufactured and then to mail out this stuff. I don't know how much this little piece costs, but it's got to be quite a bit when he's sending out. I don't know how many.
Travis, I'll bet you the part alone, at least $7 to $10.
Yeah,
that single part you're waving around, that little rod.
This Swage foot, yeah, and then the shipping, because that's one thing I hate is shipping. And it's not costing customers anything, so they're getting. You're right. It's probably a $13 to $16 item out of his pocket just to get guys an updated part that he really did not need to do for them.
Okay, Travis, I have a question for you. All right, I've got the black die body right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've got the gold die top, if you will.
So is that a die Swage foot, or is that the decapper?
That's a decapper.
Okay.
Now, how do I get the gold die top off of the black die body?
Be a man and twist it.
I mean, he's being a smart aleck, but he's right. It unscrews. Yeah,
so just grab it, Jim.
Okay.
Use your
man. It's that arthritis kicking in, isn't it?
I know how to get it off.
Don't go getting pliers. So Jim.
No, it will involve a three jaw chuck.
Yeah, so if you can, it shouldn't be that tight, but if once you get it off to this point, then you have the second cap on top, and that's where your adjustment for up and down on the Swage foot, and then you can adjust that top cap up and down to lock it into place.
Okay, good.
And that's
good answer. Thank you.
And that's exactly the same with your decapping die.
Yep. I haven't even opened up the Swage foot die.
I used it. It's nifty.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely love these dies. I wish he would come out with some more stuff just so I could purchase more from him, because I think he makes an excellent product.
Travis, your other pocket swaging setup, is that the RCBS style?
No, it is not.
Mine is.
Oh, pocket swaging? Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were talking about something else. Yeah, the other swaging setup I have is the RCBS. I haven't tried this with the RCBS because I'm running it on the Dillon 1050 that has a swage station in it. But Phil, that's what Phil has been using is this die with the RCBS. And I know other guys that I've talked to are also doing that same setup, and they're saying they really like the two, in coordination with each other.
Works like a charm. I mean,
I will say
literally. Go ahead, Jim.
Boy, we're stepping over each other. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
It's because we're so excited about this topic.
Yeah.
Go
All right,
ahead,
Phil, go ahead.
Jim.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, literally, the setup. See, if I have one criticism, and I hate to levy it, but I do think it's fair. I set the die up fairly easily, but it's because I have a fair amount of experience setting up dies. But I felt like the instructions, like if you handed those instructions to a total beginner, I think they would struggle with it. But that said, once I got that die set up, it was literally as simple as screwing the RCBS die at the top of the press, screwing in the FW arms, and it just works. I mean, sorry, that was loud as heck. But it works great with the RCBS swage foot and the little cup to help knock the round off after you're done. What was your question, Jim?
Okay. I always liked the RCBS setup. I was always very careful. That's where I learned with the trick with the needle nose pliers is to open that mouth up, because I need the swage foot. That's probably a copyrighted name, but the arbor inside the RCBS die was turned down to fit the inside diameter of a 223 case.
But it too
works good.
Pretty close. I mean, you don't have a lot of room for error. I mean, the habit I've always been in with the RCBS kit is that I actually take the piece of brass and stick it over the swage foot and then run the ram up to contact the middle of it, because that
allow the case to drop right down onto the pit plunger coming up from the press.
Yeah.
Or from the ram.
But with the FW arms, that's not even necessary anymore because of the way it centers the brass automatically. You literally just stab a piece of brass down onto the swage, down onto the primary pocket swager, and if it's pointed even remotely in the right direction, when you run the handle, it's going to zip right in there. I mean, that's the thing of it, is that I accept that loading things on a single stage, I'm giving up a lot of speed with how I do my reloading. But this made that process so noticeably faster. That's why I said the last time, I'm like, I would spend money on this. Like, I didn't see it when it was explained, but when in actually using it, I'm telling you that even on a single stage machine, it makes things noticeably faster and smoother. Even on a rock chucker doing it one at a time. I mean, I can only imagine how much this speeds you up if you're trying to do like a Dillon 650 or something. But I can tell, or not a 650, but like on a 1050. But I can tell you that even using on a single stage, it's worth the money.
Yeah, I like this product so much. I have purchased. I haven't got these for free. I have purchased these from him. I've got 2 or 3 sets, and I want to buy. I want to buy more. So every tool head I has one of these already in it.
I was about to say, you got 3 1050s back there. You got to keep fed.
Oh, I wish I had 3 1050s. That's the goal. But yeah, this is the RCBS swage die, and you can see it just has the swage foot just sitting in there. So when it's in the press, it, like Phil's saying, I've pinched my finger several times sitting there, because you have to guide the brass up and you'll feel it, that swage foot in the neck, and then you go to town on it. And you're doing that to every piece. And yeah, you can damage your neck and stuff because you can't see that little foot in there. And with his setup, it's got this guide bushing, and you can have the foot poking out a little bit. I guess you can with the RCBS, but that's the nice thing, is on the fly you can adjust this really easily. And that guide, I'm just sold on this guide bushing. That's, to me, that's the ticket right there. And like Phil's saying, you can just throw a piece of brass in there. You don't gotta. You can just literally chuck it in there, and if it's got a little bit of wobble, you can just run it through, and this guide bushing stops the wobble and guides it right up in there. That's with the decapper and the swage foot.
Okay, I do have one thing to say about this, the FW Arms stuff, okay? And my Forster press, it doesn't fit. I'll have to use a RCBS lock nut so that I can drop it into the slot, the horizontal slot on the front of the Forster press.
Yeah, so
That
you're
lock nut will not work. It
yeah,
will
so
not
you're
work.
so Jim's talking about he machines his own lock nut, and it's a very slim profile, and I like that. But from what Jim's saying, the Forster coax, it requires a bigger, wider nut to slip inside of his press. It's like how would you explain it? It's got like a little.
It's reverse of a fork, Travis. That's a good analogy. It's a reverse of a fork. It's a slot. It's a cavity. I have to press the lock ring into. It also has to be thinner than these nuts are too.
And I imagine though, Jim, you've got enough dies. You wouldn't mind.
I do.
Taking off this this nut, swapping it, or you could swap it around with another one.
Right. I do. I just wanted to make mention of it.
That is a good thing to bring up. And now that you said that, who knows? He might come out with some new nuts and send everybody some new knowing him. So let's not tell him about that right now.
If you listen to the podcast, it's too late. Say again, Phil.
Talking smack.
So are the
press?
So are the Hornady lock? I'm assuming the Hornady lock nuts would fit perfectly inside of that coax, correct?
I don't know. I don't own a Hornady die
because they're pretty thin.
Mm-hmm. I have Lyman, Redding, and RCBS dies, and Lee dies, of course. And my lead lock nuts absolutely will not fit into Redding, the Forster coax.
Yeah, these nuts are more similar to a Lee than any other one.
Yeah, they're like
to a Dillon. Yeah, a Lee has a rubber gasket on the bottom, but.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no ring. What's Mike building back here? Is he building an ammo plant or what?
Well, we're trying to buy him some time so we can get set up so he can show us how to decap some brass.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, the other thing I did in my reloading was I threw all that 100 rounds of brass into the tumbler.
There you go.
It's out there tumbling right now. Mike, if you need more time, we'll find something to talk about unless you're ready.
Nope, I'm good. No, my biggest problem was trying to find a 7/64 Allen wrench. Because, Jim, you were asking how you get this little thing out. There's an Allen in there.
No, it's not that, Mike. If you look at my screen for a second, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now, come on.
Are you talking about separating the gold from the black?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't have a set screw on it.
No.
That's mine. Mine must be tightened up a little excessively. That's all.
All right. So
you're turning the whole die, buddy.
So just like everybody else, basically the idea, put your ram down at the bottom and you turn this in. Now I have to back it out because I've got it too far. But you see the difference in the gold or the brass and then the black. See how the brass disappears? What you want to do is you want to run your ram all the way up to the top. And then start turning this down until the brass disappears. Just like any other die, pretty much. So then back it off one full turn. Okay. Run that back down. Put your lock nut in place. And yeah, that lock nut is considerably smaller than an RCBS. So next up, you're going to need a piece of brass. And this is kind of a unique way to set up a decapper. Usually when you set up a decapper, you have everything all together. However, for this one, what they say is you run that brass all the way up, you take your decapping rod with your pin, drop it down in. And as you can see, as I'm turning it, the set turns too. And so this is where you really need this Allen wrench. Because what you're going to do is you're going to literally push the primer out. So you go slow. And I probably went too far because I didn't make sure that the ramp stayed in place. So I'll grab another piece of brass. But as you can see, it kind of shoots out the front. Set that off to the side for a second. Grab a couple. We're gonna need a few. And this is all machine gun brass fired out of an actual honest to God machine gun. So slide it back in, run it back up. And this time I'm actually holding the ram with one hand while I'm turning with the other. And then I can feel it resist. And slowly just keep turning. Until the primer shoots out. Then, once you get that done, then what you're going to do is turn it one more. I turned it probably about a half before it actually popped. So I'm only going to turn it a half. And then I'm going to lock it down with the knurl ring. So now, ta-da! Look, no primer.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, what?
You know, I have a suggestion for you. Why don't you take this clip, this little piece, since you started just now talking the last 5 to 6 minutes, why don't you make this a separate video altogether?
Nope.
You know, just copy it out.
No, I'm going to actually reshoot this with the GoPro. So
Yeah,
Okay.
And then Jim, I'm actually going to do a couple reviews for our channel on these too.
Good, because I did not know about the trick about screwing the decapping spindle down until it actually decaps the case.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The original ones, we have the updated ones now, Jim, with he's able to show you what he's doing with adjusting that. The original one did not have an Allen wrench. It was literally just a threaded rod like the swage foot. Yeah. So you would have to take the cap off, adjust it up and down, and put the cap on. And then he came out with setting it up with the adjustable Allen wrench on the top, and that makes it super nice.
Does yours have an Allen wrench, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you forget to read?
Over to you, Mike. Go right ahead.
Did you forget to read the directions, Jim?
I haven't even read the directions, to be honest with you, because I didn't take it out to the garage. The other thing is, too, I was relying on YouTube because I actually went on YouTube and found the FW Arms videos on how to set these up.
Yeah, I think the video was shot with before they put the Allen wrench in. Anyway,
right.
I'm just busting you because I have to. It's in the contract. Okay, so as you can see, guess what, kids? It wasn't set right because nobody saw primer come out, and this brass is stuck. So that means you need to run it back up. Try it again. So just like everything else, it's a matter of trial and error.
Hey, Mike, give that piece of brass a little bit of wobble. Flick it with your finger when you go up. You know what I'm saying? Give it a little bit of wobble so they can see how that.
Well,
if you can, it's kind of hard.
It's not going to really show up, but
that was pretty good though. That showed a good example of how that really helps align that up.
Yeah. So the nice thing is this is universal. So no lube needed.
And that, like I say, for me running a 1050 with an auto drive, when my cases are going around on the shell plate, they have some wobble to it, and that
Oh yeah.
That guide bushing right there has made a world of difference for me. That's one of the reasons I actually switched over to Hornady seating dies, is because they have a very similar guide bushing like that for the projectile.
So this one here wouldn't slide in. And as you can see, it's got a couple of dings on the extractor. So that goes recycle pile. Because the last thing I want is to have happen is that to come apart while I'm out shooting. Because that would not be fun.
So now while you're showing those guys that, Mike, here's the decapping die that he has in his press right now. Like I was telling Jim, you just
hang on, it's locked on me. All right, so for quick question before I turn it back over, because now we're going to switch it out to the Swager. Quick question. Is that reloadable?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So real quick, if you grab your decapping die and you just twist the body, it comes apart. And then the pin's right here at the very end. And it's just an 8x32 decapping pin. And there's other ones out there you can get if you felt like it. But his pins are very, very high quality pins. I've been really impressed with these. And it's very easy if you did need to replace it, take it apart. And none of your adjustments change because it's all locked in here on the head. So you can literally pull this apart, throw in a new pin if need be, and throw it back in the die body, and none of your adjustments have changed.
FW Arms is in the YouTube chat. What I don't know is how long he's been there.
all night long. No, just kidding.
Well, I just sent him a message, said he needs to get over here because we're drooling over his product, and he needs to get over here and watch what we're talking about. Keep an eye on you, Jim. Make sure you behave yourself.
That'll be the day.
So a couple of things you just mentioned in the chat is he's got pins that are going to be able to be used with Mighty Armory dies soon. And he's going to be releasing some Lapua pins. For those of you who don't know what that means, basically, instead of your standard diameter pin, like this little beastie here, it's stuck on Jim. God, that's scary. So instead of this here, it's actually quite a bit smaller. Now he's got a taper to these, so it kind of helps the beginning. But basically, Lapua, I can't remember, has a smaller flash hole than most of your cartridges. Hence the reason for needing. So
that explains a lot.
And it's one of those your mileage may vary things. So now, I have this RCBS, and the only reason I'm using this is because I need this, which is going to be the bottom, to actually do the swaging. Otherwise, if I had like a multi-stage, like a 650, 750, a Hornady, lock and load AP, but especially the Dillons, even the 550, they make swaging adapters that go on those presses, and that's where this die shines. But you can also use it on your standard single stage press. So I don't need my standard shell plate anymore, so I can put it back, or shell holder, I should say, not shell plate. It's a single stage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this back in. And what that is that's the actual swager. So that's what's going to do the work. But the important part is how you get the brass to it. So,
Don't forget you need the little cup too.
yeah, I don't need that yet. This is the cup Phil was talking about. It goes right there.
And since I have at one time swaged piece of brass without that cup in place, it ends poorly.
It's a piece of brass that needs to get recycled.
Yes, but it's annoying.
All right. So this one, somewhat similar construction overall from the outside. The difference is the inside. On this one, it's got a swage foot instead of a pin. And so what you're going to do is suddenly I can't put a die in. There we go. Lefty, loosey, righty, tighty, kids. Remember that. Hey, Jim. Instructions. Reloading is one of those very few things as a man. I will tell you, read the instructions. Always. Not a matter of when in doubt, read the instructions, or when it's broken, read the instructions. But with reloading, always read the instructions, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. And like I said, this is more designed for your auto presses than it is for your single stage. Because frankly, this cute little kit, no matter how nice it is, will not work on a progressive. So, and like I said, I don't know if there's one for Hornady or not. But I know there is for pins down. I know there is for the like I said, for the Dillons. So if somebody knows if Hornady has that option too, I'm not sure. But one of the recent additions to this is the new swaging rod that goes in the middle. And this one isn't flat. It's rounded. And what it's helpful for is it's helpful for if you've got dinged up necks, especially on your 224, 223 brass, because you can see this pretty much fits right about center. So what this helps is if the neck's a little dinged, it's going to still push through. So.
And really for a swaging setup, all you're after is something, that rod, just to push down when your brass comes up, just to push down on your brass and keep it a downward force and keep it steady as your actual swaging nipple or whatever your swage setup pushes in and swages that primer pocket. So it really doesn't matter on the shape as much, but I do like, I'm right now, I'm going to continue to run this flat one because it's been doing good for me, but I can see the benefits of these tapered swage foots.
Right. If I was going to do a whole bunch, I would probably switch it out just because what I'm going to be swaging is 223.
Well, you guys have heard me though. I've done probably 2 5-gallon buckets of 223 brass, and I had 0 issues with these flat ones.
Yeah. So
when he told me he's sending out some new tapered ones, I thought, why? These flat ones are working perfect. I just, like I said, the customer service from FW Arms is by far, he just goes above and beyond, and sending out these instead of putting them on the website as an option that somebody could purchase, he just went ahead and sent these out. And like I say, that customer service goes a long way for me to show the pride and quality that he's putting out in his products.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing stuff. So, all right. So what we want to do is move this up, center that like that, and then run it all the way up. And then I'm going to run this down. Whee!
Hey, since FW Arms is in the chat, hey, Will, Jim was talking about your nuts here and talking about how they don't exactly fit into a Forester coax press. Do you have any plans or any other options for guys running a Forester coax to update or change over this nut?
I just looked up at the YouTube video and Travis is playing with the nut with a big old grin on his face. That's kind of scary. So how this works, and this is where your bevel is going to really come in handy, because if you're holding it, now this one's already swaged, so it's not going to really do it. So the reason for the cup is to force the swage foot back out of the primer pocket. So now because I'm holding this, and as you can see, it wobbles pretty good, so I don't have to have it straight when I get it there. It'll straighten itself out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Phil and I was talking about. If you guys watching, you saw how easy that was, but for guys listening, that guide bushing just guides that brass right up in there, and there's no problems at all. You can just really.
This is one of those where you could definitely be paying attention to other things and run up in there.
Yeah, it's really going to increase your production time.
Oh, yeah. Because with the RCBS, you got to be just perfect. Whoops, dropped. So with the RCBS, you got to be just perfect in order for it to feed. Whereas with this one from FW Arms, I don't have to be. All I got to be is in the ballpark, and then it feeds itself in. So, but yeah, a lot easier than even with having the regular RCBS die. So, as you can see, they're stuck pretty good. It does require a bit of force to get it popped back off. So yeah, if you don't put that little cup on there to push that back up, then you definitely have a problem trying to get it off. Now see, I didn't make sure this was nice and tight before I started playing, so that's why it's wobbling. Because I'll show you. See, that's kind of not attached like it's supposed to be, because I kind of did it quick. So that's part of the problem.
Mike, don't break anything. Phil, you wanted to say something a minute ago? You had your hand up?
Oh, no, I hit the wrong button. That's why I unclicked it, or I thought I did.
Anyway, so how you fix that problem is loosen this back up. See, part of the problem when I started this is I didn't make sure that this was as loose as it needs to be so I can get that all the way up where it's supposed to be. Because as you may have seen, this pin just dropped because it's not where it's supposed to be. This is the Lee Benchmate. So, but yeah, if you put this where it's supposed to be, and then you crank it down, and you hold it in place while you crank it down, then it's actually pretty solid. And now it doesn't move. I still drop the brass on the floor. So.
And hey, and then just so people are clear, we're not getting paid to talk about these dies. We just know a good quality setup when we see it, and we feel like these deserve the attention that we're giving them.
Yeah.
He has been super generous and gave us some to give away to you guys. So that has been very, very awesome that he's done that for us. But it's not like a paid advertisement or nothing. I personally love these dies. And I think once the other guys got these in their hands, they're seeing what I've been saying this whole time about these dies. And now that's why we're talking about them.
Okay, so they're trying to figure out if this will actually clear in a Forster coax. So what we need to know is, Mark said from the top of the nut to the absolute top is 5.5 inches sticking out. Now, your mileage may vary because you may have it set different. Now, keep in mind, the bottom of the actual swaging die, or the swage foot die, is actually about here. This is all the brass, the brass adjuster. So keep that in mind. When you set yours up, it may differ. So. And so, yeah, probably a little less pressure than with using the RCBS one. So, and then he said the decapping die is a little taller yet. So, Jim, you'll have to let us know when you get a chance to try those and see if they fit or not.
Yeah, I see the problem, and the yoke might well bump into it.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. It's nice to have all these eyes on the product.
Oh, yeah.
If that's the case and it bumps into the yoke on the Forster, I'll let you know one way or the other. I'll make sure Travis knows if there's a problem. If it's not worth your time to invest in making a lock ring or some kind or another, if it's not going to work in the Forster at all.
Yep.
I wouldn't think it'd be worth your time.
So Mark said the A-frame at its lowest point is about 6.5 inches. So is that including the nut, Jim? I mean, should I be measuring from here instead of from the top?
Well, Mike,
or is the nut?
Now think about it. It will not swaging primers will not work. Swaging primer pockets will not work with that RCBS button in my Forster press to begin with.
So it's a moot.
I will have to use my exactly. It's a moot point. The shell holding system in the Forster is not the same snap-in type you have on that Lee.
Right.
So I'm going to have to mount my Lee Classic 3-hole turret press up, and it's not going to be a point. No, not going to be a problem at all.
Right.
That's a good point because the coax has got the shell holder is like two forks that pinch the case, so you couldn't hold the swage foot anyway. So there's no need for special lock rings or anything because it just won't work.
Well, the other thing is even for decapping. I mean, how many people are going to use the universal decapper on a? But actually, With this setup for decapping, it's about the same height, 5.5. So it should probably clear, depending on how you've got it set up.
Well, like I said, I'm not even going to try to swage pockets in my Forster because my swaging punch, pocket punch, will not fit.
Yeah. So
Mr. FW Arms is back in business as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, you could use a universal decapper. So.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Mark is one of those people that actually got the adapter to be able to use shell holders on his Forester, but he doesn't decap it anyway, so he's got an RCBS for that. So what I'll do, I won't be able to do the swaging on my 550 because I don't have the Swage It kit for it, but I can do the decapping.
Well, doesn't that when you swage on a 550 or a 650, it's on the downstroke, correct? So that won't work anyway because you gotta.
Well, here's the thing. No, it wouldn't because it's all the way down. Yeah. So
Yeah, you gotta have one on the upstroke, not the downstroke.
yeah. So anyway.
But most of us that were, starting off, and heck, even those of us now still prefer to use a single stage, just like you're doing right there. So that's not an issue. Having a 550 and a 650 or a 1050 is a luxury, and that's
Right.
the 1050 that's why I chose the 1050 because it had the built-in swage setup right on it. And for that 1050, this FW arm setup is ideal.
And FW Arms just said in the chat, it won't work on the 550, 650, or 750 probably. And he advises people not to get that if they have those presses. So
the decapping die would work perfect though.
Yeah, it would.
And for me, honestly, this swage foot is really nice, but the decapper, that's where the money's at. This decapping die, this is the ticket right here.
Right.
Like I say, having this is a luxury, and if you need it, this is a great setup. But everybody needs one of these.
Right.
One of these FW arm decapping dies, and like I say, this right here is the ticket.
Yep. Especially on a progressive press, because unlike a single stage where that shell holder is really, really precise and really holds that brass firm, on a progressive press, there's some wobble. So that's where it would come in handy. I don't know if it would be as good on a 550 because you've only got 4 spots, depending on how you want to do your crimp and stuff. But on a 650 or lock and load, it'd be amazing. So, and Hook'em's right. It is sexy. He says the decapping die looks sexy. It is. And that's a great idea, CDC Outdoors. Buy a cheap lead press. Or go garage sailing. Pick yourself up one of these. This is an old Pacific. So if I'd have had time to mount it, I'd have done that, and then we could use that for swaging. But yeah, I mean, you can find you can either buy a cheap Lee, or you can usually find maybe some old RCBS or some old Pacific or old Hornady single stages for pretty cheap. And away you go with that.
Yeah, so those listening, you can go over to FW Arms YouTube channel, and he's got some videos over there. Yep. And he just said he's going to upload a video tonight of this being used on the lock and load.
Excellent. I'll have to watch that video. So
He's also got, go to his website, guys, because he's got, besides this, he's got a really nice spotting scope mount, and it's actually very, very interesting to look at. It's a lot different than any of I've seen, and he's got a couple other cool items over there.
I saw that spotting scope mount. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, forgive me. I can't remember. I was going to say it's got a spot for a spotting scope, and then it looked like it had another little attachment on there. I'm looking real quick right now.
Well, one of the things it's nice for is it's got the better adapter, so you can just put it on a piece of rod, and then you've got a lot more flexibility with how and where you've got it set. We use them a lot when we're teaching shooting for 4-H kids. And then especially during fair time when we're scoring them for shooting, it's a lot easier because then you can have it behind the kid and you can adjust it as you need to, vertically and horizontally and everything, and it gives you a lot better. So that's what that one's for. Is it's more for that. It allows you to use it anywhere from bench to pro. Is the nice thing, or even standing for that matter. Oh, and he says he's adding some toys to the spotting scope stand. Oh, I wait to see that. So,
yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture on his Instagram, and he's got a spotting scope, and then it looks like an iPad or something attached off to the other side of it. So he's got two things on the one stand. Oh, and I completely forgot about this cool thing he had. He's got a Bourdain sensor. It's a prototype, but it is a Bourdain sensor for his decapping die.
I'd be interested to see how that works.
Yeah, I do. I remember watching some videos of that. It was really interesting. I need to get one of those. Yeah, he's a very creative individual.
It appears that he's created a case feeding system for the Annealing Annie.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. That's I want that pretty bad. That setup does require a different. I got the induction coil, and that feeding system. I forget what the Annie Annealer calls it, but they're kind of look like forks, so the brass can fall in between and then fall out. Instead of falling through the coil itself, it's got a spot for it to fall out the front of it. But it's, like I say, he's a pretty creative guy, and he's got some good stuff.
he's got some really good, you got to go check out his Instagram page. He's got some really good pictures. The command center is not out yet, but he's got a picture of it. So, but yeah, just nice and amazing. So, but yeah, take a look at Instagram especially, and look at all the cool stuff that he's got coming up and coming out. And it's this is one of my favorite things being in reloading, is getting to see all the innovation. Yes, it's, they've been doing it for a while, but especially in the last 20 years, there's just been so much innovation. How can we do this better? How can we do that better? How can we make this work better? How can we make this work better? How can we get more efficient? So it's pretty awesome, pretty special stuff.
Well, what's really cool is he's not a big company either. We're just a couple of guys talking about reloading stuff and equipment.
Yep.
We're able to get, we can talk to him. We can, we know who he is. He's just not, that's what I think is pretty cool, is to me, this is more of a ground level reloading, type of setup. And it's just cool to see like Mike says, to see the innovation that because he's a reloader too. And I'm sure he saw a need for something, and he went out and invented it and created it and put it out there on the market. And then here we are talking about it and purchasing them. And and using them. It's awesome.
Nice. So, well, anybody got shout outs?
Yes. For one, you guys go over, like I said, go over, check out FW Arms on Instagram, give them a like and a follow, but also go over and give the Reloading Podcast a like and a follow.
Yeah.
And if you feel generous, give Buckeye Targets a like and a follow.
Absolutely.
And then go ahead and go over to your favorite podcast app and download the Concealed Taco Dudes.
And don't forget, you got to boost the Matter of Facts podcast also.
The who? Never heard of her.
Yeah. Tell those jokes.
Hey, did we ever get anything going on a giveaway?
For the book? Yeah, he gave away a book. Yeah.
You gave it away?
He gave away a few.
Yeah, it was the podcast that I couldn't make. I sent Mike the names.
So,
Okay.
My name wasn't in there. That's kind of sucks.
that's because you're not eligible.
Don't you already have? What a whiner.
Listen, Hook'em.
I'm not eligible because I bought a copy of the book.
Oh. FW Arms, you are very welcome. So we appreciate the help too. So, yeah, amazing projects. Thanks for sending me the ones to try out, and they're just amazing. So,
Yeah, I mean, I have to give credit where it's due. Like I said, when I saw the die and saw how it worked, it's one of those really simple ideas, but it's so brilliantly freaking executed. I mean, it
really is.
But it's one of those things, and when you see it, you're like, why didn't somebody else think of that sooner? I mean, it's beautiful. It works, and I am like the king of cheapskate reloading, but I'll tell you honestly that one pull of the handle won me on that.
Yeah.
What sold me was when he punched that pin through 3 different Berdan Prime cases.
Yeah, I'd really love to get my hands on one of those Berdan Prime sensor setups that he has. But all honesty, I've ran into Berdan Prime stuff, and these pins just punch right through and make their own primer pocket hole. It doesn't break the pins. It's just they're a great setup.
Yep.
You mean flash hole, Travis?
Flash hole, sorry. I was thinking.
Thank you.
I was thinking what we need to do is get Phil one of those annealer setups and have him hook up